We've heard them all a million times, the story of the man upstairs and the babysitter, the woman who hears scratches on the roof of her car only to discover the hanging body of her boyfriend, the man in the backseat with an axe, and of course, Slender Man. However, there are a ton of urban legend monsters out there that don't get the recognition they deserve. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scary urban legend monsters on the internet. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. Coming in at number 5, we have Nora Petrova. As a child just shy of high school, figure skater Nora Petrova happened upon her own Wikipedia page. Now its existence was already perplexing considering that she hadn't created it herself. What made it truly terrifying was that it seemingly predicted the future. Nora Petrova was born in Portland, Oregon, and at the age of 6 she began trying her hand at ice skating before transitioning into figure skating. It was the night before her first championship win that things started to take a strange turn for her. That night she was experiencing quite a bit of anxiety in anticipation for the competition, so she went on the internet. For fun, she googled her own name and ended up stumbling across the aforementioned Wikipedia page. The page said that she would win the next night's championship at Crystal Classic. When she would check her wiki page before competitions, it consistently and accurately predicted the victories at every single tournament. She worked hard in order to compete at the Olympics, so when it came time to try out for sectionals, she checked out the page. However, this time it said, Nora Petrova is a selfish little who is going to get what she deserves. Nora was desperate because her friend Bree was also competing and she didn't believe that she could beat her. In fact, at the tryouts, one of the blades on Bree's skate flew off and sliced Nora across the head, causing her to bleed. It was believed Nora sabotaged Bree's skate on purpose. Following the incident, she was banned from competition and it was becoming clear that the wiki page predictions were coming true. Consequently, the page continued to have horrible descriptions of Petrova and predicted one tragedy after another. One day she checked the page, with it saying that she would die penniless on the day before an audition, and Nora was ultimately found dead at her computer in the Czech Republic. Coming in at number 4, we have Robert the Doll. In the late 1800s, Thomas Otto and his family moved into a mansion at the corner of Eaton and Simonton in Key West, Florida, now known as the Artist House. The family were known to be stern with their servants, sometimes even mistreating them. Now a woman was hired to take care of their son, Robert. One day Miss Otto supposedly witnessed her practicing black magic in their backyard and fired her. However, before she left, the woman gave Robert a lifelike doll which stood 3 feet tall, had buttons for eyes, human hair, and was filled with straw. Robert named the doll after himself and often dressed it in his own clothes. He took it everywhere with him. He even had a seat at the dinner table and would be tucked into bed at night. However, things quickly got very strange. Household objects would be found thrown around the room, with Robert's toys turning up mutilated, and giggling could also be heard. As the mischief grew, more and more servants took their leave as new ones were hired. The parents ended up removing Robert the doll and placing him in a box in the attic. This is where he resided for many years. Robert the doll would supposedly attack people, even locking them in the attic with him. People who passed by the home would claim to hear evil laughter coming from the turret room. The doll was later moved to the East Martello Museum in Key West, where he sits perched in a glass box. Coming in at number 3, the Russian sleep experiment. At this point, the Russian sleep experiment is known by most across the internet, with it being one of the most popular urban legends to take flight on the creepypasta wiki. It tells the story of 5 test subjects who were exposed to an experimental sleep-inhibiting stimulant in a Soviet-era scientific experiment. The urban legend recounts an experiment that took place at a test facility in the Soviet Union in the late 40s. In a military-sanctioned scientific experiment, 5 political prisoners were kept in a sealed gas chamber with a continually administered airborne stimulant for the purpose of keeping the subjects awake for 30 continuous days. The prisoners were falsely promised freedom if they completed the experiment. The subjects at first behaved normally, talking to each other and whispering to the researchers through the one-way glass, though it was very quickly noted that their conversations became much darker. After 9 days, one subject began screaming uncontrollably for hours, while others seemingly had no reaction to the outburst. The man screamed for so long that he tore his vocal cords. Not long after, a second patient started screaming as well, with the others preventing the researchers from looking in by pasting torn book pages and their own feces on the porthole windows. On the 15th day, the researchers decided to turn off the stimulating gas and reopen the chamber. Upon looking inside, they discovered that the 4 surviving subjects had performed lethal and severe mutilation and disembowelment on themselves during the past few days, including tearing off flesh and muscles. They also violently refused to leave the chamber, murdering one soldier who attempted to do so. The Russian sleep experiment became immensely popular upon publication and is considered to be one of the greatest creepypastas on the internet. Coming in at number 2, we have the clown statue. Now, this urban legend was originally published in September of 2011, with it being one of the more popular tales to sweep the internet. So, what's it about? Well, it goes like this. A girl was babysitting for some family friends one evening, a little boy and a little girl. The parents had a fetish for clowns, and in turn had collected clowns from around the world for years, setting aside a room in the house just to put them all on display. That night, the children were playing in the clown room, with many of the statues being small. However, a couple were life-size. One in particular was seated in a small childlike rocking chair. Over the course of the evening, the babysitter began to feel more and more uneasy. She felt as though the eyes of the clown were following her whenever she moved around the room. So she called the parents, asking them if she could move the clown in the rocking chair because it was beginning to scare them. With that, the mother told the babysitter to quickly grab the children and get out of the house, to go to the neighbors across the street, and that she would call back immediately. Frightened and confused, the babysitter obliged, grabbing the kids and running out of the home. When the parents finally arrived, they explained that one of their neighbors was mentally ill and had been giving them problems. On numerous occasions, he had snuck into their home and tried to kidnap the children. This time, he dressed up in a clown suit, painted his face, and waited patiently until the opportunity arose. Very, very creepy indeed. Lesson number 1, maybe don't have an entire room in your house dedicated to clown statues. Just a thought. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Mr. Bear. Mr. Bear is the titular character from Mr. Bear's Cellar, the main show of Caledon Local 21. According to this incredibly creepy tale, the show had 31 episodes, 6 of which are described in detail. Mr. Bear is the host of the show, a man in a bear costume. Sometimes he only wears a bear mask and dons adult male clothes. And in most episodes, he has a child come visit him in his cellar. It is also noted that he has a fascination with orange juice. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of the specific episodes. The known episodes that have been documented are 12, 23, 24, 25, 28, 30, and 31. Now this urban legend begins with our narrator Elliot recounting the show, which was an eerie public access television series. One episode involved Mr. Bear asking children to write him letters. A young Elliot ended up writing one in 1999 and ended up getting a response back, telling him to come to an address in Caledon. When Elliot's father took him there, police were excavating the house, and Elliot never heard from Caledon Local 21 again. Jumping forward to present day, Elliot would go on to investigate the history of Caledon Local 21, eventually finding a police station with several tapes from the channel. And after watching the final episode of the show, in which Mr. Bear burned some people alive, Elliot quickly realizes that he could have met the very same fate. Now this urban legend spread like wildfire around the internet, with some readers even creating their own fan-made recreations of the episodes, which is slightly concerning. But if you want to check it out, the original story is still available online for you to read, and warning, it ends on quite the cliffhanger. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any urban legend monsters that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos, Top 5 Scariest Monsters on the Internet Part 2. St. Dan said, I remember that Mr. Widemouth story, oddly thrilling. Honestly, nothing sounds scarier than a teddy bear on your bed that comes to life and tries to lead you down a dark, wooded path, only to kill you with a knife. Sounds pretty dark to me. Tom O'Rourke said, Lucy, you feeling alright? You sound a little softer. Apologies if I sound softer. It's because I'm relaxed. I'm in pajamas 24 hours out of my day, you know? I wake up, I put my pajamas on, and then I record for you guys. It's a soft feeling. Ian Samuel said, how about top 5 horror movies from the silent era that's still worth watching today? I love this idea. I'm a very, very big fan. I'll see what I can do. Lancelot's1 said, one thing that I consider terrifying about Slenderman is the fact that we actually have no clue of what happens to its victims, leaving us unsure and with the fear of not knowing anything. Are they dead, taken away in another dimension, and if so, what kind of dimension? I think he eats them, to be honest. Or absorbs them. They're gone. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And until next time, see you later.